Welcome to the live stream, everybody. Hopefully, you're all doing fantastic this fine day. First of all, if I could just get a quick audio visual check, make sure you guys can see my charts clearly and you can hear me. I don't sound like a robot or anything like that. But yeah, guys, I just kind of want to. I was basically out of the house. I ended up seeing a short opportunity, ended up taking it, and figured I should go home and get on the stream for you guys here and just kind of babysit my trade, kind of go through my thought process, etc. I've also been away from home for the last few days, so I just kind of want to go over my kind of my updated thoughts on the market. I mean, not a lot has changed, but just a few things to watch for and that kind of thing on the larger time frames. So, and actually, yeah, with the monthly close too. So there's a few things I want to go over. And, but yeah, other than that, how are you all feeling on the market? Hopefully you guys can hear me and see everything clearly. Again, if you guys could just do me a favor and let me know in the chat if you can. Yeah, basically I ended up taking a bit of a short at this blue dotted line here. My reasoning, same as always, just looking at a classic Stuber fib setup here. We lost an uptrend. Eventually, we got some sort of a retrace back up to that level. I actually ended up taking profits on half my position early. I'll go into that in a second. But yeah, just want to make sure you guys can hear me. Looks like sound is good. Perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah, for those of you here already, if you could do me a huge favor, hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't as well. I know a lot of people have said they've missed some of my streams because they weren't actually following this channel, Financial Summit. I do quite a few live streams here now. So yeah, be sure to give a subscribe to their channel here. And yeah, like the video, show your support if you appreciate my insights on the market. How I just kind of approach the markets with a level head, a few strategies I look at, some of my favorite indicators and so on. But yeah, just to talk about this strategy a little bit. I mean, yeah, like I said, we lost this structure. Makes sense that we see some sort of a dump here. But then it's the retrace that really interests me. And that's where I like the 786, 886 Fibonacci pocket. The one thing about this one, which, like I said, I did end up taking some profits a little bit early, stop losses at break even already, because I like to protect myself quickly in these volatile times, especially that on the larger time frame, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit here on the 4 hour. I actually see reasons why we could bounce from here. So I'm just kind of protecting myself. I'm very quick to look. Basically, I'm looking for reasons to get out of a trade once I'm in one. And this being, I actually took this on the 5-minute chart. Just again, looking at this structure, pulled back to the 786, 886, started my entry here. I have laddered entries up on the way, but I ended up canceling those when I started taking profits on my position. As soon as I start taking profits on a position, usually I am going to bump my stop loss up to break even. But if nothing else, I am removing my additional orders just because at that point I feel like, you know what? If this position is going to go for me, I don't really want to see that much weakness that we retrace to my other entries. I feel like we already had our opportunity to get those. So all my entries at the 886 and the full retrace, I removed those for now. So basically, yeah, like I said, I entered this position because of a 5-minute chart. But then when I'm looking for reasons to get out, I'm actually usually downscaling my chart. So looking for reasons to get out, I'm actually going down to a 1-minute. And this is where I just saw a little bit of a structure break. Yes, it never really held, but something that was just a bit of a warning. And you can see my little green line here, just like when I had the bearish structure break, I had a red one. This was a bullish one, so I made it green. Yes, this is micro analyzing, but again, once I'm in a position, I'm looking for reasons to get out because I am more of a scalper. If I catch a big swing with it, then great. But I just want to protect myself and start paying myself quickly. So you can see here, basically, we ended up setting a lower low, and then we ended up breaking that level, setting another lower low, just looking for areas where we got any kind of a bounce. Again, micro analyzing, yes, but that's what we're doing as scalpers. So we're looking at the immediate trend, basically. So we had this little bounce here. So that's our low, had another little bounce here. That's a lower low. This would have been the lower high at the time. And then obviously we set another lower low, and that's what gave us another lower high here, which I outlined in green. And we ended up breaking that, which is exactly why I closed half my position. I was just thinking, this is looking a little bit weak from a short point of view. So, and since there was some sort of break, I'm just looking for reasons to downsize my risk, right? So that was my thought process there. And with the other half, just break even stop, because I don't want to lose anything on this position. But I do see reasons why we could go lower, because if this is to play out like a typical Stu or fib, then we're going down towards this 214 fib. And basically my reasoning for that is, I go over this every week, but for those of you that are new to this strategy, etc., basically the 214 is the opposite of the 786, right? So if I'm entering a short on a 786, if I'm looking for the opposite 786 for potential long setups, which would also be good for a take profit on a short, right? So if I pull my Fibonacci from bottom to top looking for support, you can see that 214 just front runs my 786 very slightly. So that's why I have that. And then I front run that a little bit. So the other take profit that I have set is down at 57,788, which is just a little bit above my 214, which is 57,751. So about a $30 or $40 difference there. Reasons why I'm being a little bit cautious right now. So you guys know I've been leaning bearish for quite a while now. But I'm still okay to be, cautiously bearish. I'm not just saying YOLO short right now, all in 100x kind of thing. Nothing like that. I'm still open to the idea of bouncing at support levels, right? And if I bring up the 4-hour chart, that's what I have right here. Just basically where we found support briefly in the middle of this range. Actually on this uptrend, I would even consider calling that a higher low, right? Because it's not a higher low in the sense of the macro structure that I'm looking at, but just this immediate trend on the 4-hour. Basically, we'd have a high of this range here, and we broke it and set a higher high. That's the lowest point between the two. So that is a fairly significant level of support there. And that's why, it would make a lot of sense. Even if we do continue bearish, it would totally make sense to test up higher, after getting a rejection like that. That's where we could start looking for bearish Fibonacci's, something like that. And, a 786 would be all the way up towards 63,000. The 886 is right around 64,000. So that's not off the table. The fact that we're seeing a nice little bounce off the support level is showing that we could absolutely blast off to the upside a little bit, even if we're going to maintain our macro bearish structure, right? So that's just kind of why I'm being cautious, right? I'm still bearish on the trend. When I zoom out, I still see lower lows and lower highs, right? There's no arguing that. That's not a personal bias. That's just basic structure. We're just breaking structure to the downside. And that has not changed yet. Seeing a bounce like this, where we bounced up towards 65K there. We've seen that on every one of these rallies, which continued bearish. So this was not abnormal. It was no more bullish than any of these other swings. In fact, this one got shut down earlier. We got shut down at 65K, which was just shy of the 786 at 65.5K. Every other swing on this trend has actually made it up to the 886, not just the 786. So we're actually seeing weakness on this last pump, which is kind of one of the reasons why I'm still leaning bearish. But again, just since we're at a 4-hour support level and I'm trading the 5-minute and the 1-minute, I just got to be a little bit careful, right? Because no matter how sure I am of anything, the market doesn't give a shit what I think, and the market will do whatever it wants. Nobody knows for sure. So yeah, that's just basically why I like to protect myself very quickly. So, again, not panicking out of my position. And this is exactly why we're still seeing weakness come into the market, relatively quickly when we do, start these downtrends. Like I think it makes sense that we're on our way down towards that 57.7K kind of in that area. In which case I'm closing another quarter of my position, like I said, at 57,788. So, This is not an abnormal setup for me. You guys who have been on these streams with me, those of you with the MDX community, like all you guys who, have followed me in the past on my own YouTube channel, etc., know that I talk about these Stuber fibs. And whenever I see those structure breaks, I'm looking for reasons to get into that 786, 886 fib pocket because it gets respected so well. But it's still important to downsize your risk quickly. And actually, last week, you guys, I wanted to bring this up, that ton short that we took last week at this exact time a week ago. We were trading right in this area, and I was talking about how I just entered a short on ton, and just look at how this has played out. I actually ended up closing the rest of it last night. I have a feeling I might regret that, but just since Bitcoin was at its 4-hour support, was showing signs of life, I just thought, you know what, this has been a great trade. I'm just going to close the rest of it and then find the next one. But if Bitcoin does continue nuking, I mean, this thing is going to absolutely melt. But this was an absolutely beautiful setup. Let me know in the chat if any of you guys caught this with me live last week, because that was last Wednesday when we took this. That was a 20x short. So it ended up, when I closed it, it ended up being close to a 300% profit. Yeah, I think it was somewhere up here that I ended up being like, just in case this is a V shape, I'm going to take my profits. So yeah, it was very close to a 300% trade in the end. Absolutely beautiful. But again, it was just, look at it. It was the 786, 886 fib pocket. Just looking at where we had this little aggressive sell off and bounce. I was just looking for, that fib pocket. If we end up seeing a rejection there, great. If not, it's a tight invalidation. So yeah, love those setups. Always end up taking them. But yeah, so Ton has been playing out well. I might still follow that one a little bit because I think there's still opportunity for a lot of volatility there, with Durov being, in jail and that sort of thing. Because if the crypto market starts facing some rejections and that sort of thing, I mean, something that has bearish fundamentals behind it. You guys know I don't really trade fundamentals. I'm more of a charts guy. But if you have the fundamentals backing up what the chart is also showing, I mean, that's a powerful combo, right? But yeah, as it stands right now, I'm mostly focused on Bitcoin. I'll mostly stay on the shorter time frame here and kind of babysit this. Like I said, kind of go over what's going through my head and that sort of thing. Let's actually see what some of the indicators are saying. I want to bring up some of my favorite indicators first, and most importantly is bringing up the pretty color one. Next, bringing up the Trendmaster indicator. So something working against me with this short right now on the 1 minute is that we have higher trending buy signals. So it's not necessarily each signal on its own that I like to take, but I like to really pay attention to which way these are moving, which way they are trending, and being we have higher sell signals as well as higher buy signals. That's just a warning to me, right? Being, eventually trends break. That does not have to keep going by any means, but usually that will affect which way I'm looking for trade setups. The reason why I shorted here was because it was, a bigger move that I was looking for. Actually, I mean, on the 1 minute, it would have actually had those. What's the 5 minute looking like here? Curious to see what the 5 will show for some signals. We still have support on the 5 minute technically with this buy signal. I'm going to consider this next time we see a signal. It probably will be a higher buy signal, to be honest. But yeah, if we end up starting to see these P's trending to the upside as we're testing this support, another nice bullish pivot point would absolutely be great confirmation that, hey, if you're, looking for a long position, maybe that's a signal that would help that, we have the buy signal, we have some pivots trending to the upside. Now I'm going to start looking for bullish Fibonacci's, right? Not necessarily taking the trades on the signals, but just looking for trading that direction. So if I end up getting stopped out on the rest of my short here, and we end up continuing just trading or trending these signals to the upside, even on the 1 minute, I'll probably change my bias and start looking to temporarily long, just scalping longs more so once again. But since this trade is already working out for me, I'm just going to leave it go for now. But yeah, actually where we are right now, I'm very curious now. We have these upward trending buy signals. Let me just remove them. I just want to see. Technically, we're getting very close to a potential long setup. I'm more happy shorting the market right now, so I'm not as interested in this. But that's a potential signal right there, just because we do technically have this break in structure as well, right? I can remove this one. That one never ended up playing out, and they don't always, right? But as far as this trend goes, we have this low. Oop, let me get the brush out. We have this low. We have a lower low. And this would be the lower high because that's the highest point between the low and lower low. Then I'd basically be looking at something like this. And we did technically get that break of structure. So for a typical Stuber fib setup, that's kind of what I'm looking for, right? I'm looking for a break of structure followed by a pullback to the 786, 886, and then looking to play the range first. And then basically hoping for a breakout with the rest. But like I said, since I'm already in a short, should I hedge this? I would consider hedging along. I want to see how we react with this fib pocket before I decide to open any hedges. Just because that would be a good way to get into a position and not really be too concerned about it, because if that gets stopped out, my short would just carry on. But if it gets reversal and my short ends up getting stopped out at break even, the long would end up profiting along the way and just countering that basically. For those of you itching to pull the trigger on a long, I mean, technically, I myself, this is the type of long setup I would be looking for. The one thing that I don't like about this, just because it's always good to be aware of the pros and cons, right? Is that this is not a structure break in the sense that we actually broke our high and set a higher high. It's just on the very immediate trend that we did. So that's obviously why the target would be much closer than preferred as well, right? Whereas if we got a break of this level, setting a higher high, then we would have a much bigger Fibonacci pocket to pull, obviously. But the market doesn't always give us what we want, and it doesn't give a shit about our feelings. But yeah, I mean, we're getting some sort of a reaction there at least, right? I wouldn't be too surprised to see something like this. Like I said, with the buy signals trending left side, something that's a little bit concerning from a bullish point of view, these pivot points, or no, never mind. No, there's technically trending to the upside there. Buy signals trending to the upside. The sell signals are still trending to the upside. It does look like they're starting to round over, but so far it is what it is. We still have higher trending buy signals. We still have this bullish Fibonacci setup. But if I ended up, like if I was taking this position, I like to ladder into positions, just like I like laddering out. So I'd be looking at more so setting orders here, here, and here, and invalidation just slightly below my 115 basically is how I typically trade those. I like to do it that way, and basically just starting with a light position and then laddering in heavier with my lower entries, just because that helps really pull the average entry down, right? And it's a form of risk management. I want to be clear about this. I'm not adding risk by doubling down, tripling down on my position. It's more so that I have a position in mind, and then I am looking to split it up, right? Like if I have a number in my head, then I'm looking at more so trading like, depending how I feel like splitting it up at the time, but I'm thinking something more like one that I'll do quite often is like a sixth, a third, and a half, just to really pull my average entry down. So I get it usually a little bit lower than the 886 if I do something like that. So it just makes that invalidation much tighter, right? So it's just a way of additional risk management. Yeah, you don't always get the full position in play that you were hoping to, but if you do get stopped out, at least that stop loss is much tighter to your average entry, right? I want to check a few things. Let me actually bring up the 4 hour. I want to bring up the liquidations tool. This is something as well. I was talking about the potential of being at 4 hour support. So, I mean, there is that potential there going for the bulls, as well as notice there's a lot more liquidations to the upside, right? So, even though the market's actually quite long heavy right now, um, it must just be like the size of orders and just the high leverage liquidation levels, because all these yellow and gold lines here, this is 50 and 100x liquidation levels basically with MDX ALGO indicators. And this is just showing that, if the price, if the market maker wants to grab some liquidity, it would absolutely make sense that we would go to the upside before flushing to the downside, right? Flush out all those people who are now shorting late to the party, basically shorting right into support. And, just to punish them, liquidate them to the upside, give everyone FOMO as we trade up to the 786, 886 fib pocket, as they love to do, and then nuke the market from there if the downtrend is to continue, right? I mean, that would make a lot of sense. So like this liquidations indicator, I love pulling it up just to kind of give that confluence of, does it make sense for the price to bounce right now? Because like I said, I'm bearish. So I'd like to bring this up. And yeah, it does make sense that we could trade a little bit higher because there's so much liquidity to grab to the upside here. So I absolutely see reason for that. But just as a whole, I'm still bearish just because, like I said, the structure, lower highs, lower lows, that's all there is to it. But I'm totally open to the idea of, bouncing from here. Long-term bearish, but short-term, midterm, I'm honestly, like I said, I'm more of a scalper. So I'm good to trade either way. As long as the market's volatile, which it has been, I don't care if it's going down, just like I won't care if it's going up. I'm not going to get wrecked just because I'm bearish right now. If we start going up, I still have most of my spot portfolio. And as well, I have no problem changing my bias when that structure changes. But, just to check on my bias, just checking the longer time frames. Does this weekly chart look healthy? Not overly, in my opinion. Just the fact that, where we ended up finding support here, just this order block back here, you can see that we reclaimed it. Here was a perfect opportunity for the bulls to pull the trigger. They never did. We re-lost that level and now respecting it from the opposite side, which I do not like to see. Looking at the monthly time frame, this monthly candle just closed recently. I don't like how this monthly candle closed. I mean, we obviously closed below the candle bodies back here. If I just remove the wicks just to really clean things up a little bit, that structure does not look good to me. That just, and candle bodies mean a lot more than wicks because, that's, everyone cares more about weekly closes, daily closes, monthly closes. It's never, what's the lowest it got or the highest it got during the month. People really focus on closes, and to see a monthly close that bearishly engulfing below structure like that, there's just some red flags there. And I just can't really deny that. And I can't really change my bias quite yet. I honestly thought we would have went a little higher at the start of the week. I thought we were going to retest the bottom of those candle bodies, and that would have been around 60.5K, 60.6K. We only ended up getting up to about 59.7 and dumped from there. So I thought we were going to go up and test a little bit higher, to be honest. But yeah, that monthly just doesn't look overly great to me. Happy to be proven wrong. I want to be clear about this. The 4 hour starts breaking structure. We break a lower high. Honestly, I would prefer us to go lower before doing that, because we could form a much tighter invalidation level and we could get into some much safer long-term swing longs. It would be a lot easier if we actually drop lower, but because these swings have been so large and back up into the previous range, that our invalidation levels are so high up. Like, even if we set a lower low now, our lower high is really only dropped that much down to about 65K, right? Whereas if we set a lower low and another immediate lower low, we would have a much tighter invalidation where we could get into some much safer positions. So it's not so much just that I'm a perma bear, you guys. I want to be clear about this. I'm not always bearish. I was very bullish for the last year and a half, something like that. It's just that I'm a structure guy. I'm not even a number guy. I don't care what the numbers on the side of the screen are. And I know I have a bit of a bad habit by saying this level here, and I don't say it. And I know a lot of people are on mobile and stuff. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to say the price levels a little bit more moving forward. But it's just that I'm so in the mindset of just trading structure, and I don't care what the numbers are, right? So whether the price is 70K or 50K, I don't really care. All I care about is what the structure is telling me. And as it stands right now, the structure has not changed. So I just can't change my opinion yet. Even if I'm short-term bullish, like I said, there was totally reasons why we could bounce from this level because we are technically at a support level. The trend is still bearish, and I'm still bearish on the long term. I really think, especially the fact that we've dropped this low down to, where did we end up bottoming on this little dump the other day? 55.6K basically. Since we've dumped so low into our current range, I just really don't see why we wouldn't test the 786 and the 8. Well, I'd say 786. Potentially even lower, right? So I'm looking at like 52.5K. And I know I've been calling this for quite a while. That's because I really think it's only a matter of time until we pull back to that Fibonacci. Because if, chart structure works the same, whether it's the 4-hour chart like this, the weekly chart, the daily chart, the 5-minute, the 1-minute, I'm always looking for those 786, 886s. You guys know that. And this chart is no different. The fact that it's playing out live right now, I'm not going to change the way that I look at structure and Fibonacci's just because I feel like this bull market should go higher. I do think it will go higher. I just think that there's potential for a much bigger move to the downside before that happens. But again, happy to be proven wrong. Let's see what some of the indicators are saying on the 4-hour here. I already went over the liquidations level. Let's check out what the Trendmaster indicator is saying. If we had a higher buy signal come into play here on the 4-hour, I would strongly consider changing my opinion for the short term or even the midterm. As it stands right now, yes, we got a higher sell signal, but we kind of have mixed signals, right? The charts aren't always going to give you exactly what you want, and things aren't always going to be clear. This is one of those times where, unfortunately, we don't have a clear signal with the indicators, except what is catching my eye right now. We do have these downtrending pivot points. So basically, the way I would treat that is invalidation would be beyond basically the previous pivot point, right? So basically this bearish trend would be negated if we ended up getting above, well, basically 64K. So quite a ways to the upside yet. But again, 4-hour, that's obviously going to be much bigger price moves than what I'm used to playing, the 5-minute, the 1-minute, stuff like that. Yeah, so far, still not looking all that great. Still hasn't been invalidated, to be honest. But yeah, I'm still not interested in longing. Although that would be a very tight stop now. I'm still way more interested in the short side of things myself. It's kind of too bad that I did end up closing half of my short when we had this little fake out break, because obviously that was only half the move from where I entered up here. So could have made twice the profits or just sold a quarter of the amount or half the amount that I did of my position. But it is what it is. Like I said, when I enter a position, I'm basically looking for reasons to start downsizing my risk. And this little fake above that structure, that was reason enough for me just so I could relax to close half of it there. So like I said, I still think we're on our way towards 57,788. Actually, I think lower. That's just where my next take profit is because I like to front run my targets. How's everyone else feeling about the market? Anyone in any crazy positions? Anyone feeling excessively bullish, excessively bearish? Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if relatively soon we end up seeing these buy and sell signals on the 1 minute start trending to the downside again. If that happens, I might actually start adding to my position. Only if I'm in a position where, like if I still have this position running and I'm able to bump up my stop loss into a nice profit still. I never like adding to a position unless it's a planned laddering in. But other than that, I don't like adding to a position unless I know that I'm safe and I still can't take a loss. Like if I know that I can bump up my stop loss into a healthy profit and I have a nice, a beautiful entry to add to it, for example, then I will. But so if these start trending to the downside, I would consider it, just because, I give a lot of weight to that when I start looking for which way to be trading. And I just like the way that they make everything look as well. The another thing that was going for this position, when I ended up taking that position at just above here, actually, let me get rid of some of these colors just to make it a little cleaner. When I ended up taking this position at the 786 there, another thing that jumped out at me was basically that, it just looked like we were pretty toppy with this wave master indicator. We were getting these bright red flashing signals in overbought territory. We were getting these reversal pivots, and that was all kind of coming in as we were trading up towards the 786, 886 fib pocket. So that was just another thing going for me. Because I give most credit myself to price structure. Price structure is always number one to me. But from there, I love to bring up indicators and basically look for a second opinion, right? And that's where I've been using these MDX ALGO indicators for, I think, just over 2 years now at this point. Absolutely love them. The only other indicator I really use sometimes is the RSI, because I have a very specific RSI divergence I look for. But other than that, the only other indicators I use are the MDX ALGO ones. There is actually a link in the description down below if you want a 10% additional discount on top of current promotions. That is down below if these indicators do interest you. Like I said, I've been using them every single day for the last just over 2 years now. Absolutely love using them. And I only use a small handful, right? I have about 4 uploaded here. A few that I look for the different reasons. And that's actually one I'm going to bring up in a second here, the auto charting tools. But there is a whole slew of other indicators here, this whole list. So about, I don't know, more than a dozen. Oh, it looks like we're going to work our way towards my second take profit here. Excellent. Come on, Biddy. A little further. I got some chat to catch up on. Let's just watch how this goes for the next couple minutes here. Let's get a little soft background noise here. And again, guys, if you guys have appreciated this, just do me a favor, hit that like button and be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss these. I like doing these live streams with you. They're fun. It's fun to talk through my own emotions. Like everybody always says, keep a trading journal and that sort of thing. And that's a big part of doing stuff like this. I can always go back, see what I was looking at, where I went wrong, what went right, just keeping a level head by talking through my emotions. So I love doing this. But yeah, let's get some soft background noise here. Let me know if it's too loud and you can't hear me over it or anything like that. Mark Woods. Did you mean Mark Words? 4-year cycle should be going up by end of year to mid next year. I agree with that. Even though I am quite bearish and, talking about much lower price targets and stuff like that, I don't think this market cycle is over, right? I do think that we see much more bullish price action. I don't think we've gone totally parabolic yet. I just think that it's maybe not probable, but it's very possible that we get some sort of a bear market sized move very quickly that flushes out the market. Bigger players get the orders that they want and all that sort of stuff. And then we blast off. And I think that would take a while to play out, probably the majority of this year yet. So I think everyone's just kind of expecting things to happen too quickly, because really when we zoom out on something like the weekly chart, this is just basic price action. If this was the 5-minute, we would expect it to take quite a long time, and it wouldn't be all too ridiculous to expect us to test the bottom of the range again, right? Again, I think it would take a black swan event to get us pushed down to some of these crazy targets. And again, I am not saying they're probable, but they are possible. If this was, like I said, I like trading structure. I don't really pay attention to the numbers all that much. And when I just look at structure, if this was a 5-minute or a 1-minute chart, I would be looking to short this down to the 786, 886. So obviously doesn't have to happen, but it's on my radar, right? Yeah, I think we can push down a little bit lower on this 1 minute here. The Wave Master's starting to try and curl to the upside, getting some bullish pivots here. But I just think the fact that we dropped so far into this range already, I think it would make a lot of sense that we get near the 786, 886 pulled bottom to top, right? And that would be down around 57.7K. I'll keep the bearish one up for now because that's more so what I'm looking at here. Spyros, you remember me taking that 300% trade. That's why you keep following. Nice scalping strategy. Thanks so much. I appreciate hearing that. And I love seeing, I always see your comments and all that sort of thing. And I can tell you're paying attention. And yeah, that was a great trade that we took on Ton. Exactly a week ago. Like I said, I have a feeling I might regret closing the rest of it last night, but it was a beautiful trade. So more pain needed. See, that's another thing. I agree with that. A lot of people were very quick to call this max pain and stuff like that because Bitcoin corrected 25 or 30% or whatever. For those of you who have been around crypto for more than one market cycle, you know that 25 or 30% for Bitcoin is nothing. Yes, there's bigger players in the space, and yes, it takes more money to move the market. So, volatility generally dies down over time as markets mature. But I mean, crazy pullbacks on crypto. That's why we love trading crypto, right? I don't care if it goes straight up. I want volatility. I don't care which way it goes. I would rather know how to trade markets both directions, because let's be real. What if something happens? What if something happens to crypto, or all of a sudden you can't access an exchange, or, just anything happens? I want to know how to trade markets in general, not just crypto specific. I stick to crypto because it's easy to access leverage, and it is, like I said, very volatile. But other than that, I mean, you can trade any market once you can read charts. I mean, if you can trade, you can trade, right? Brian still feels a dip to just under 40K on a wick. Max pain needed and a bounce well after Trump gets back in. Yeah, honestly, kind of something that I've been talking about a little bit lately is, a lot of people are saying that we need Trump to get in, otherwise crypto's screwed. Something to consider is that, if Bitcoin's relying on one guy to perform healthy, we have failed decentralization. But I honestly, the way I'm kind of looking at it, let's say we do get that final flush black swan event, and let's say near the end of the year, which would line up right around election time, I could totally see, and this is just totally a random theory at this point, I have nothing backing this up. I could totally see Trump getting in, it becomes a sell the news event, and then we go parabolic after that big reset. Whereas if she wins, then I could see immediate panic gets blamed for the sell-off and followed by a parabolic run anyways. I could totally see that happening, but obviously, again, market doesn't care what I think, so we're just going to have to see what happens. But yeah, just to go over your comment about 40K, I think that makes so much sense. because on this weekly chart on the way up, something to consider is we never had a ton of trading on the way up in this run, right? I mean, we had a really nice big range back here. Notice it lines up with the 786. And we also have this range here, which would be more so what you're talking about. So looking at a nice healthy range from about 44K down towards 40K basically. Yeah, I basically, here's my thoughts on this. I think if we dump from here and we're going to set that new lower low and test into this box here, I absolutely think we get some sort of a recovery. We get some sort of a bounce, and everyone's going to claim that the bottom is in once again, because every time we get a bounce, people say that. I absolutely see reasons why we would find support from this level rather than this level, because where we found support so far, that was only a pause for one doji weekly candle. That's all we had for a pause on the way up, whereas back here at least we had a couple months of trading action, right? So I think it would make sense that we get a nice recovery from there. The thing is, if we don't, and I want to be clear about this, even if we break this structure, we could just end up trading, retesting a lower high with a new Stuber fib, something like that. The trend would still technically be to the downside, so watch out for something like that if we do get a recovery. But here's the scary thing is if we end up dropping this range, if we do drop 40K, yes, a little liquidity grab is totally fine if we reclaim it right away. If we end up closing candles on the weekly below this level, just look at this. There was absolutely zero trading between, other than the straight parabolic run to the upside for those couple months. But there's no actual consolidation. There's no range bound trading basically between our 786, which is around 28,000, up to the bottom of that range around 40,000. So if we lose that 40,000 support, it's basically a straight shot down to those macro fibs. And unfortunately, those are way down at 28K, down towards 22K. I know nobody wants to hear that. And I do know how ridiculous it sounds. Okay. Trust me. I know it sounds ridiculous. When I was calling for 48K, when we were trading at, 18K, that also sounded ridiculous. And the same people who are on me about being bearish were back then on me for being bullish. So that's just kind of another signal for me that, I think, and also just a lot of people, I think, misunderstand what's happening right now is that, yes, we're just consolidating sideways. And yes, that's generally seen as a continuation pattern. The difference is we're consolidating sideways after losing a higher low structure on a weekly chart. And just to show you, you can, again, taking off the wicks, you can see it a lot better. But you can see this is where we had some support on a weekly time frame, and we lost that candle body support. And then we just started respecting those, 786, 886 fib pockets on the way down, just getting those structure breaks followed by a pullback into that fib pocket and then rejection. So far, that's just kind of what the trend is doing, right? So yeah, if we get down towards that, I really do think we will see that $45,000 to $40,000 range. But I mean, we're gonna have to see how we react at that level. It's a very important level because, like I said, there is nothing below that until we hit our macro fibs. And make no mistake, if we hit these macro fibs, if we lose this support, if we lose that 40K support, I am going to be just setting a bunch of limit orders between 30 and 20,000. I am just going to be limit buying because I think if we do get to those levels, I think that it will be some sort of a capitulation panic event with crazy volume, and I think it will springboard. That's all a theory at this point, but I am more than comfortable if we do start dropping towards those levels. I want to be ready because if it's anything like when we had the COVID panic and that final capitulation, that massive sell-off that did in fact drop to the macro 786, 886 fib pocket and even a little further was short-lived. And I can tell you that because I was watching this from my couch and this all happened within a couple of hours. I think it might have even been less than 1 hour, basically right around the weekly close. But I think Bitcoin ended up pumping like 40% within an hour or something. It was very short-lived. So I have a feeling if we saw that sort of a thing again, for one, I think it would take a black swan event to push us there, period. But if it happens, I think it'll be very short-lived. And I think it would actually be a very aggressive springboard type of healthy flush that then we get the crazy move that everybody's hoping for. There's a lot of people in the space that are just expecting it to be very easy to get rich because big players, smart money came in and is gonna pump your bags for some reason. Generally speaking, smart money did not become the wealthy few percent in the world by FOMOing into market cycle all-time highs and by pumping other people's bags. Most likely, they are going to toy with retail's emotions until we have no money to buy the dip, and that's the dip they're going to buy when we start panic selling, basically. So those are just theories, but that's kind of the way I'm looking at it right now. Back to le 1 minute here. What are the indicators saying now? We still have this sell signal trend here. I'm actually going to bump my stop loss down a little bit, just a little bit, just so it at least pays my fees and stuff like that. But basically, since we have both these sell signals on the ALGO indicator here, I just feel like, if we break past both of those sell signals here, or the structure more so that's relatively close here, at that point, I'm going to lose faith in my short there. And I'm just going to lock in whatever little profits to pay my fees and stuff like that on this half of the position. But I'm still hoping to see this level down here at 57, basically 57.8, but my exact take profit is 57,788. Thoughts on Aerodrome Finance? I don't even know what that is, to be honest, so I don't have too many thoughts on that. C-Poly short from 58.3. Nice. Was gone in minutes. Any tips to limit in on such quick moves? Tried to limit at 58,350. Yeah, what did we get to? On Blowfin, about 58,320. Usually I front run my targets. I actually ended up taking a market order on this one. I try to avoid market orders because you always pay way more in fees. But I was in a hurry to get some kind of a position. So I did get that. And then that's where at that point, even if I'm just starting a small position, I can set my stop loss for my entire position, and then I can set limit orders. I still front run all my fibs a little bit, right? This one, since I noticed late, I actually got in slightly higher than the 786. But generally speaking, if I'm taking additional entries, I'd be front running those fibs a little bit. They said it would never break 6K and we went to just about 3K. Man, I remember that so clearly. That was actually the reason I learned how to leverage trade. I actually didn't know you could, but the way I started trading in that bear market, well, actually a couple days before the bull market ended, I basically started trading by coin collecting to keep my money out of it, to keep emotions out of it. I was just trying to collect these digital coins just a little bit, just selling before they dip and then buying back a little cheaper. So even if my portfolio was taking a shit kicking, at least I was learning how to trade and how to accumulate. But then what I noticed was exactly what you're talking about. that infamous descending triangle. Let me just remove absolutely everything. The infamous descending triangle of this bear market. So many people were saying, no, there's no way that we are going to break that support level. And I mean, it was such an obvious pattern, right? Sure, it was support, right? That's the thing. This was absolutely support, and support is support until it's broken. But that's just it. Eventually that weekly candle broke that level and closed below, and we absolutely nuked from there. We got cut in half again, right? So when people thought the bear market couldn't get any worse, there was a 50% drop. So it can always get worse. And basically when I noticed this pattern, it was actually on the daily chart, not the weekly, but same thing, same pattern. When I saw this, I was like, I need to be ready in case this happens. If we do close below this, I want to short the shit out of this. And that was actually basically the first short position I had ever taken. Was probably one of my best. Was not my biggest, because it's when I was starting out and whatnot. But definitely one of my best trades was shorting that. And that's the only reason I learned how to trade with leverage, because I was like, oh, this is a thing. This has got to be a thing because I see this setup. It's too nice. So I remember that. I remember that dump from 6K to 3K very clearly. Oh, yeah, the Bitcoin Cash hard fork. Man, do I remember. I was still very new to the market at that point, but I remember some other people posting about shorting Bitcoin Cash throughout that. And I remember people ending up like getting forced closed out of their positions because order books were getting wiped out and stuff like that. Slippage was a lot worse back then too. But yeah, I remember that happening. I'm with you. Those were crazy times. I was very inexperienced at the time, but it was exciting. And I think that's also a reason why I keep a level head and why I have never felt more calm about not giving a shit which way the market goes right now. And a big part of it is just that, you know, when you've traded a couple bear markets, you don't really care which way the market trends. If you're a trader and you're comfortable trading either way, then I really don't care as long as there's volatility. I'm looking forward to the next bear market. Again, I really don't think this is the start of a bear market. I just think that there's a bear market sized move looming. There's a difference. But I'm excited for the next bear market because really shorting, shorts generally play out about 3 times faster than longs. Bears generally act 3 times faster than bulls, right? I'm excited for that kind of volatility again. Don't get me wrong, a bull market's fun when you can just sit on your ass and not do anything and make money. But the actual trading aspect, man, I think shorting's a lot of fun. Might be reversing early before that take profit, just because again we do technically have this break, but whatever, I'm still hanging on to that half. Maybe we end up seeing something like, oh yeah, I was going to bring up the auto charting tools. Let me remove some other indicators. What are the auto charting tools saying? Okay, that's interesting. This is another strategy I have outlined. And actually, that is what made me take this ton short. I believe we had a lower high signal on the 5-minute that I pulled this Fibonacci from. And I think it was right around here. Yes, I remember that well. Yeah, this is a strategy that I like to use when I'm looking for those Fibonacci's, is using the auto charting tools just as confirmation, basically. Looking for that confluence for where I should be pulling Fibonacci's from. And that works out so well a lot of the time. So that's the Fibonacci I pulled last week on stream. And so that's basically what I would be interested in watching right now. And again, that's actually why I'm keeping my stop loss up above here too. I actually might have to loosen it a little. 1 sec. This would be a nice potential short if this downtrend is going to continue. We might get something like so. As far as a scalp opportunity. Yeah, I am going to bump up my stop loss a little bit just to be a little past my 115. So at this point, I did lock some in anyways. Let's go something like that. Let me just update position on my other device here real quick. Poloniex. I remember trading, what was it, Bitmex? Bitmex was a big one back then. I think that's what I was doing my trading on, but I remember there being crazy slippage and stuff. I think there's a lot more slippage and, you know, things are just a lot more reliable, a lot less server error issues and stuff like that these days, which is nice. But those were the good old days. If we end up closing a candle body above my lower high signal here, I'll probably end up closing the rest of my position. But as it stands right now, I want to keep a little bit of wiggle room. So basically a break-even stop loss. I'd actually probably take even a very small loss on my fees with the rest of that half, but that's fine. Let's get a new beat going here for a little bit. Arthur Hayes error on BitMEX. Yeah, oh man, every time the market got volatile on BitMEX, you would get server errors and stuff. And by the time you actually got into your position, it would be totally different. I remember setting conditional orders and getting crazy slippage and stuff. I don't know. Do they even still exist? I have no idea. I know they were one of the bigger leverage trading platforms at the time. There's so many good ones now, though. I believe there is a, if anyone's looking for a no KYC exchange to trade on or need a backup or anything like that, there should be a Blowfin link down below as well with some special bonuses and that sort of thing. So check that out as well. Oh, nice. A lower low signal printed on the auto charting tools. So yeah, this is a beautiful Fibonacci pull in my opinion, just because we have the lower high pulled down to the lower low. That's a great fib to look for resistance. And just like any trade setup, you guys, obviously they don't work out every time. But rather than looking for playing a breakout, because so many people love to only play breakouts, so they see that structure break and they immediately want in on that position and then they wonder why they get wrecked on the pullback. Very common for structure to break and then see a pullback. Just like, you know, we lost this higher low, right? We lost this higher low. We end up setting a lower low and then we get some sort of a rally, right? That's very normal. And that's why Fibonacci's, I find them so nice to trade just because they're so structured. You know, if you lose your trade, at least you had something structured to follow and you're not just losing a trade because, you know, you had a gut feeling and you're just kind of taking a wild guess, right? So very nice way to pinpoint entries as well as taking profits, invalidating levels, all that sort of stuff. And then being able to pull them off other indicators like this, just as an additional confluence like this auto charting tools, one of my favorite strategies to do. But yeah, I would like to see something like that. Well, I would like to see it just continue pushing lower. But just as far as looking for a scalp, my first target would be closer to the 214. Again, I always front run my targets a little bit, but that's kind of what I'd be looking for. I'm not adding to this position just because I don't feel like adding risk to this. If we saw this at a much lower level, then I would consider adding, because I could safely bump up my stop loss and that sort of thing. But as it stands right now, I'm not adding to my position. I'm just going to let it run because I see reason for this downtrend to continue. You know, we went from higher lows, higher highs, all of a sudden lower high, lower low. So it's nice having the indicators kind of point that out. Just look at that series. I mean, yeah, there's the couple one-offs, but look at whenever the price starts trending down, just a beautiful series of lower lows or lower highs. Get a little bounce, relief rally, we switch to lower lows again, boom, just absolutely dumping. Get a nice little relief rally here, start setting lower lows and nuke down again. So again, just kind of using indicators for helping me spot a trend, right? I still generally like to find Fibonacci pulls and stuff like that. But it all depends how it's going to line up, right? I mean, here, just at an eyeball, I feel like this looks like a perfect one. Yeah, you know, unfortunately, we never got up to the 786 of this signal, for example. But here we probably got one, even though it would have been small. It was a nice continuation, right? Look at that. Perfect test to the 786 on TON here. Here, let me just adjust that very slightly from our lower high to the bottom point there, and look how accurate that is. Yeah, it's a very small range there, so a scalp target would be close, but look at that continuation of the downtrend, right? If you had your invalidation just above your lower high signal, because at that point, if that's broken, it's invalidated, right? Never did happen though. Came to the 786, pinpoint accurate, and absolutely dumped. From that, how far did it dump? That was... Oh, let me just adjust this here. That was an 8% move on TON from that signal and waiting for that 786 retrace. So yeah, very powerful signal. Add some leverage to that. I mean, that's a big move. This one right here, did this end up getting one? I'm not sure, to be honest. Yeah, basically 886. Obviously the scalp target would have been hit already, but yeah, just to show you how often that plays out. And yeah, sometimes it's smaller ones like that. You don't always get those nice big retraces that you're hoping for, but it can definitely set up for some nice opportunities. I'm gonna erase this first TP. It's just annoying me. Hidden bearish div on the 1 hour. Is that on one of the indicators or like the RSI or? Could that top be the wick off reaccumulation? Are you talking about the weekly, like, or the 4 hour, whatever, like the big top? This basically. So my thing with that theory is basically, I've heard of people thinking this is an accumulation zone, and although I totally see reason for that, because you know we had this uptrend and we're just and we're not accumulating, we're trading sideways, consolidating. That's the word I wanted. Again, going back to where I mentioned earlier that we're consolidating after breaking some bearish structure, right? We lost our uptrend of our higher low on the weekly chart, and then we lost, you know, we set a lower low, we set another lower low. If you're going to count wicks, we set another lower low, not the candle bodies there. But we're setting lower lows and lower highs as we trend sideways, as we consolidate. So if we were you know, this could look very similar and mean two very different things, right? Like if we would have just traded to the upside here and then consolidated up, you know, sideways like that, I would say that there's a strong case that, hey, we're holding higher low support. But the fact that we ended up losing that higher low support and now we just keep retesting bearish levels, retests, to me, it looks more like a distribution range than accumulation, to be honest. And obviously that can be invalidated at any time. If it does, there's plenty of bull market left, right? That's my thing. If we end up breaking this structure, basically these levels, we start closing cattle bodies above this, I mean, I will be a moon boy just like everybody else. But as it stands right now, we're so far setting lower lows and lower highs. You know, on the 4-hour chart, I just think it's so clear. And even just where they get rejected, right? Each of these red boxes, I know a lot of you know where I'm going with this, but we set a lower low. Let's pull a Fibonacci right at the 886. Set a new lower low, pull the fib from the lower high. Where do we get rejected next time? Right in the 786, 886 fib pocket. Set another lower low, pull a fib from the lower high. Where do we get rejected this time? Just below that box. So that's where I was saying that I think there's a little bit of weakness here. The fact that we never quite made it to the 786 at 65.5K. We only made it to 65K. Never came close to the 886 at about 67.6K. So yeah, just the characteristics of this is just we keep breaking structure to the downside and getting just a retrace, right? It's a bearish retrace. Everybody starts getting FOMO right as we trade it to that 786, 886 fib pocket. You know, I saw so many people, oh, Trump's speaking. Well, that was a perfect sell the news event because everybody got FOMO right into that 786, 886 fib pocket once again. So the fact that we just keep respecting that, that's just kind of why I think it's distribution, that it's people actually, the bigger players offloading after a retrace, right? They're letting the market push back up so that they can unload at higher prices. That's kind of how I'm looking at it. Can I comment on the state of the monthly and weekly Bollinger? To be honest, I don't really use the Bollinger Bands all that much. So I just don't want to give you misinformation. I just kind of want to talk about what I do use, right? So I just don't want to misinform you. So do I ever use the market cipher indicator? No. I know I've heard of it. I've seen other people use it. I've just never used it myself. This is a local top, low time frame one. Depends. How low time frame are we talking? Basically, we just tested that fib pocket. It's not getting it rejected as hard as I would like, to be honest. I'd really like this position to keep running. I don't want to have to find a new one later. You can see that there is a pause. I mean, even if we end up smashing through, I mean, that's trading. Sometimes the market just doesn't care about our analysis, but you can see that there's an obvious pause, like we're basically right around the 786, 886. And at least this way, you know, if you're taking a position at these levels and getting stopped out, getting invalidated, then at least it's not like you're shorting. Like I said, there's a lot of people who love shorting breakouts only, for example. So if people were shorting down here versus shorting up here and your invalidation up here, I mean, it's just better practice to wait for those pullbacks, right? Just keep those invalidation levels tighter. We're seeing the Wave Master just warn of some volatility coming in, basically. Potential reversal, but we haven't broken any immediate structure yet. I would love to see one of those yellow dots form here and then, you know, lose some sort of structure like that. Then I think this would be a beautiful signal saying that we're going right back down to some of these targets. But if you want to be safe about this, then I would probably wait for that to happen to actually see some weakness coming out of this box. But yeah, if we end up closing above this lower high, I'm just going to close the rest of my short position, take the little bit of profit that I have. Oh, unless I get stopped out first on the rest. Which if we get to 58,277, well, we are getting close. I have a feeling this one's going to be gonzo. So far we've got to 58,269. My stop loss is about $8 away, so I expect to get stopped out on the rest of this, but that's why we leave a little wiggle room there, so we'll see. What are the indicators saying? Because if this gets stopped out and it really does look like I'm about to on the other half, I'll probably have to wait for some kind of new signal to form on the indicators before I gain confidence either way. We did get this lower buy signal. I'd love to see a lower sell signal come into play, and I would immediately flip bearish again. Oh. Well, this is just exciting. Look how close we got there. Oh boy. Got some volatility going on the 1 minute here on this 1 minute candle. Music setting the vibe here. Yeah, it's not getting shut down as hard as I would like, so I don't like that we broke this lower high here, though. Well, at this point, I may as well babysit it until I leave here to go make food. But yeah, I'm going to be taking off once this position either closes. Well, and then we'll take a look at what to expect moving into the evening. But I really do expect us to blast through this at this point. Yeah, there it is. So the rest of that position is closed. I'm not going to FOMO long into a breakout here because of everything I was just talking about. I personally don't like really trying to play breakouts. I'd rather wait for those pullbacks. What can we look for here? So there's a few things we can look for here moving into the evening. I'm just going to remove the tunes here. Let's start with a naked chart here. A few things I want to look at. It's still possible we get rejected here. Should we enter a new one? You know what? Screw it. Actually, wait. You know what? I am going to start another small short right now. Again, I'm going to be planning to ladder into it. Let me just set some orders on my other device here. I'm just seeing reasons why, it's possible that we're just getting rejected from this other Stuber fib here, just zooming out a little bit. So basically, I'm just looking for a quick scalp, at least on the first half of my position, if I can get that. Basically, my reasoning for that is, again, zooming out, looking at this 786, 886, but also the Wave Master indicator here. And again, I am still technically fighting the trend of some of these indicators. Well, that technically is a lower buy signal. Either way, this is a risk I'm willing to take. Basically, invalidation just above 58.4. But yeah, just looking at this 786, 886, as well as the Wave Master down here, we're just seeing those blue dots for potential volatility coming in, a bearish reversal here, right as we lose some immediate structure here. It is very micro analyzed here, but again, just as far as looking for scalps, it is this immediate trend, right? Pennant on the 15-minute. I will take a look at that in a sec. 15-minute. Very possible there's a bull flag there. Let me check. So you're looking at something like this, I'm guessing. Some sort of pennant like that, I'm guessing you're seeing. Yeah, I can totally see reasons for that. The thing to me, I personally like horizontal levels more than I like trading shapes and stuff like that. And I myself, when I do look for trading patterns like that, when I'm looking for breakout plays, because I do still take some trades like that with ascending triangles, descending triangles, any sort of pennant, whatever. One of my criteria personally is that I like to see 3 exact touch points before a breakout and retest. So with this right now, we're just kind of getting our third test. So if we actually broke right through it on our third attempt here, because this would be 1, 2, third test. If we actually break this right now, I'm actually a little bit hesitant to call it a valid pennant, because it would only be a second touch point and then breaking right through. I just like 3 exact touch points just to kind of really confirm that pattern, basically. basically whichever trend line is going to break, I like it to have at least 3 touch points. So actually, the bearish side of it has 3 touch points, right? We have 1, 2, 3. But again, it hasn't broke yet. But if we broke to the downside now, at least I would consider that, hey, it's actually been tested 3 times already. So this could be a valid breakout, whereas the upside only has 2 currently. Except, right now, let's just say we close this candle red here, and that's basically our third retest of this line, and then we end up breaking it. Then, yeah, that could absolutely be a thing. But we have to really see which way it does end up breaking. Basically a few bucks above 58K, I'm going to close half my short. If we get there, right? I'm just assuming things. Would close half my position there, and then the other half, I just hope that I get a runner, right? Notice that target actually lines up quite well with the pennant support. My 214 lines up with it very close in the next basically 5 minutes. Just a little added confluence that, hey, maybe that is a thing, right? You think BTC will drop from here? Move looks more like C than a wave 3. Yeah, we'll have to see. Anything is possible, that's for sure. But the reason I like to treat the start of every position as a scalp is just because that way, quite often, even if I'm wrong on my theory, I can still make money, right? That's why I'm always quick to downsize my risk and stuff like that. Downsize risk, pay myself a little bit, and then update the stop loss and let it run because, yeah, you know what? When those home run trades do come, I don't really bank on them because they're so few and far between. But if they do happen, then I still want to have at least something on the table, right? And that's why I usually don't close my entire position. Of course, with Ton, I mean, yes, maybe I'll regret it. I did end up closing the full position, but that was a home run trade already, so I don't really regret taking those profits. But I mean, even with that trade, right? I was very quick to take partial profits. Actually, I think it took almost a full day until I hit my 214. So it was something like, I think back here, I ended up finally hitting my target. So basically 2 days after I took the trade. But again, left some running just in case. And it played out very well. I'm actually going to remove the pennant lines just because I am more interested in the fibs and the horizontal levels more so. Just personal preference. I actually used to trade pennants almost exclusively. I do like that pattern more than most, and the reason I feel that way is because really to me it doesn't overly matter what the exact shape is, but again, looking for that 3 touch point trend line before it breaks kind of a thing. And just so happens that you see pennants everywhere in this market. Just like I was showing earlier, I see 786 and 886 retests so often, right? Same thing, pennants, you see them all over the place when you start looking for them. If you guys are enjoying the live trading sesh, do me a favor, hit that like button and subscribe. Be sure to not miss these on Financial Summit as well as my own YouTube channel. I live stream here more, to be honest. So be sure to follow this channel here. I do still have these like technically that buy signal was a lower buy signal. Would like to see a lower sell signal come into play, just kind of confirming that, hey, the trend does look like it's shifting. That would be nice to see right now. Switch back to the 5 minute. Oh, actually, so that fib I pulled on the 1 minute, notice it does actually line up with a 5 minute lower high signal. Quite often what I'll do is I'll hop over to the 5 minute. I think I mentioned this at the start of the video. I'll hop over and kind of do my analysis on the 5 minute, but then I jump into the 1 minute when I'm actually taking the trade. This one, I honestly wasn't doing that. It just kind of worked out that way, but I'm going to start taking profits very quickly. Not quite yet. I'm still hoping we end up hitting down to this level. But if we don't just kind of drop immediately from here, if we close candle bodies above this wick here, I'm just going to close a quarter of my position just to, you know, take a little bit of profit so that I can pay my fees and that sort of thing. And at that point, actually, I am going to adjust my stop loss already to protect myself to just above this structure up here, just to give a little bit of wiggle room. Currently looking at basically this as the lower high on the immediate trend. So just to give some wiggle room, I'm going to go above the one previous to that. So 58,188. So this is one of those times I was talking about how if the 4 hour would slightly trend lower and you'd get a nice tight consolidation that would have a nice tight invalidation level and you could feel a lot better about being bullish on the market. So just on this is just a good example. It's very, like as usual, very micro analyzing, but it is what it is on this very, very immediate 1 minute trend. Just pretend this isn't a 1 minute. But what we have right here, this is very zooming in, but we had this low, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high. So yes, it is the very immediate move. And yes, it's over analyzing things, but as scalpers, that's what we do. If we close a candle body above that, I am going to close a quarter of my position. It looks like we will. It's very reactive trading. That's the thing, guys. Trading the 1 minute is not for everybody. I want to be clear about. Leads to bad habits, over trading, over leveraging, revenge trading, all those bad habits. It's not for everybody, but the thing is, when you look at structure, structure is the same as I was talking about on the weekly chart, the 4 hourly, the 1 hour, everything. Oh, we never quite closed above, so I'm actually going to bump my stop loss down a little bit. Right about here looks good. Let's go 166, just to make sure I cover my fees. But yeah, as I was saying, market structure generally works the same on any time frame. So even if you're not into trading the 1 minute, there's still a lot of value to learning how I look at structure, how Fibonacci's work, where to pull them from, all that sort of stuff. How these indicators, how I watch them, which way they're trending and stuff like that. Actually, I wanted to check the weekly. I wanted to check my Trendmaster indicator, and we are still technically just clinging on to life support here. So that's the thing. There is still support here, right? As far as the macro time frame goes, if we lose this support, things could get very ugly. But as it stands right now, just another reason why I'm still kind of cautiously bearish, right? I am very openly bearish, but I'm still being cautious about it. I'm quick to protect myself and stuff like that because I'm not married to my idea. I can be invalidated for sure. Yeah, exactly. It's great to watch the price on the 1 minute like this because yes, even though it can get very flip-floppy because obviously structure changes very quickly on the 1 minute, it is what it is, and it's great for looking at examples. And yes, sometimes they're hard to catch that quick because really that's another thing with trading shorter time frames, right, guys, is things happen very quickly. Like I've tried to trade shorter than a 1 minute. I can't concentrate. I can't focus quick enough. I can't set orders quick enough. Like if you're slow at setting orders or slow at pulling the trigger on positions, I mean, trading the 1 minute is just not for you because if you wait even a minute or two, it could be a totally different entry, right? Like when it comes to especially scalping, trading shorter time frames, I mean, reaction is everything. Reacting over predicting any day. It does look like we're trying to find support here again. Really like the bears to just pull the trigger for me. I don't want to get stopped out at basically break even again. That's no fun. Oh, yeah, we're just trying to go higher. Yeah, so the rest of my short was closed there. So basically break even. That's boring. Well, what can we look for moving forward? We're just not quite getting to my targets there today. I mean, it's still possible it happens. Maybe I was just jumping the gun and protecting myself too early, but what else can we look at here? You know, I think before I jump to any new conclusions, just because of where we're trading at, I might wait for the indicators to make more of a clear signal. Either we have a lower sell come into play relatively soon here because we have this lower buy. If we get a lower sell, then I'll be looking for short entries once again. Or if we get another higher sell followed by a higher buy signal, then I'm going to start looking for bullish plays to make. That's kind of what I'm going to be looking at moving into the evening here. But head and shoulders on the 15-minute. Like just this immediate range here. That's messy at best, I would say. Ooh, we have another one of those fib pulls on the 15-minute though, which I like. Maybe I shouldn't be closing my short so soon. Maybe I should ladder into a new one again. You know, one thing I do see on the 15-minute though is that I see reason for a pullback and actually a long setup in the not too distant future potentially. Just looking at this structure, how we had this, obviously we had this low, lower low, lower high. We did end up breaking that level. So to break the level and then see some sort of a retrace back down, something like that would make a lot of sense, right? Because that would just be looking for a bullish super fib, something like this. That would make a lot of sense, but that would take a while to play out. That might not even be for a day or two kind of a thing. But yeah, I still really can't help but feel like we are going to trend to the downside. I am still more open to the idea of letting short positions run, trying to catch a runner on the downside. I'm just trying to be cautious right now, just because, again, going back to that 4 hour, the fact that we're at, you know, a support level, even though it's in the middle of the range, it is a support level. Just reasons to be cautious, but I'm just itching for reasons to get into a short again, honestly. I'm probably going to ignore the long side of things again. And I'm more so interested in looking at these indicators flipping short. I might just start laddering into another short. Why not? Take another one. Yeah, why not? I'll start another one. We've been going longer than I was expecting, so what's a third position, right? Technically at a very micro support range here, but we're starting to see some bearish warnings again. If we can break below this support and have this signal, that would be ideal. But yeah, I'm going to start laddering into a bit of a short position again. I just have a feeling tonight we're going to see some lower prices. Even if we get, obviously you do what works for you, not financial advice. Form your own opinions, do your own back testing and everything, right? Because like that's one thing with trading, guys, is we could have the exact same indicators, the same trend lines and everything, and I guarantee we would trade this market completely different. I think back testing is one of the most important things that you can do. But yeah, even if we do have this bullish structure, I think it would make a lot of sense to pull back towards these levels and get a proper lift off. I'd actually be more bullish if we had a proper pullback before just taking off. Loving the stream, Stu. Keep her lit. Oh, I'll keep her lit, all right. Well, thanks. I love that you guys are enjoying this. Like I said, I know not everyone's into trading the 1 minute, the 5 minute stuff like that, but it's obviously more exciting when you can find, you know, examples, even if they're smaller versions of trade setups that you would prefer. You know, at least we see more of them live, especially if we're looking at the degenerate time frames, right? Been looking for someone like me, right on. Love to hear it. Yeah, that's the thing, guys, is like a lot of people don't look at the shorter time frames, right? I mean, everyone loves to give their long-term opinion, and I'm no different, right? I love going over my long-term view as well, just to kind of have a bias and feel which way I should be trading. But yeah, not too many people really zoom in and just watch things happen live. And sometimes it's just nice to watch with a group of people, get second opinions, see how other people are emotionally handling it, stuff like that, right? So there's definitely a lot of use to watching it, because realistically, even though in my opinion, most people should probably trade the 4 hour or the 1 hour chart, most people still zoom in way further than they should. And that's not to say people can't trade the shorter time frames. Honestly, it's all personal bias, personal opinion, which way you want to trade. I personally trade the shorter time frames better usually. I find I can relax more looking at the 1 minute or the 5 minute chart. I have a hard time holding on to long-term swings that long, unless like, as long as I already have profits in place and my stop loss is at break even, then I'm fine to hold on to a swing. But I hate opening a swing position and waiting days to figure out if it's going to work out or not. Like, I mean, in this stream alone, this is my third position here. And even though the other ones, I took a very small pay on the first one and then stopped out at break even on the rest. And the second one basically stopped out at break even completely. But you know what? I was never stressed about it, right? And a lot of people can't say the same. So, I mean, it totally depends. A lot of people would find looking at the 1 minute extremely stressful, but a lot of people prefer it. So Love to hear the feedback. Justin thinks we spiked to around 59,042 before heading back down if we are to continue down. You know, there is something to be said about that. Honestly, I can look at the auto charting tools, and if I pulled a Fibonacci from our most recent lower high, it would probably agree very close with that statement. 58.9K to 59.3K basically would be my 1 hour Stuber Fib pocket. So if we do end up bouncing, I mean, I assume we would find some sort of resistance in this area. If not going all the way back up, if we get some sort of a immediate rejection at that box, I mean, then yeah, it's looking weak, and I assume that we're seeing a much bigger sell-off again. But even if we get some sort of a test up to these levels, if you really wanted to play things safer and get into a much tighter invalidation type of a setup, then you could just set an alert at our current local high here. And then if it gets hit, watch how it reacts, right? If there's a bit of a rejection there, then that's a good opportunity to get into a short. You have a nice tight stop loss. Basically, you have a reference point for where your stop loss would be, because there's already been a liquidity grab in that point, right? If we did basically end up doing something like this and straight back down, then at least you have a reference of some kind, right? Like, this is one of those cases where, since it is the 1 minute, I might update my stop loss. Just because on the 1 minute, trading it for what it is, I mean, as far as structure goes, we had a little bounce here, right, on our immediate trend. So we have this low, we had a little bounce and a lower low. So technically, if we break this, that is invalidation of this immediate downtrend. Not the entire downtrend by any means, but just as far as wanting to keep my risk management tight, sort of a thing. I'm not actually going to do that yet, but just kind of a way that, depending how structure forms and what size of moves there is and that sort of thing, that's just kind of a typical setup that I look for. Like, you know, even if we end up closing a candle body above this and I'm able to lock in some profits right here, I would take it. I would end up closing half, just because, again, looking for reasons to get out of my position. A lot of people focus so much on trying to get into positions, but not really how to get out of them, right? And I think, I don't know, me personally, I can say with quite a bit of confidence that the hardest part of trading is hitting that take profit button. It's so easy to get greedy. And that's another reason I love using some of the indicators, right? Is you know, if all of a sudden these trade directions, all of a sudden, oh, notice we did get a lower sell signal. Nice. So basically, if these were to reverse now, all of a sudden we get some sort of a higher buy signal. That would just be a warning to me that, hey, maybe I should start taking risk off the table, or I should pay myself, or whatever, because things may be changing directions. And that's one thing, is a lot of people rely on indicators for helping them find more entries when that's not necessarily what's wrong with their trading. I like using them as a risk management point of view. You know, looking for reasons to get out of trades or avoid trades, basically, as well as entries, obviously. But yeah, that's just another way I really like to use them. Just, hey, if all of a sudden they're trading or changing directions, maybe it's a sign for me to back off a little bit, right? I'm just going to hold on to this short for now, because just that we have these downward sloping sell signals, we're just going to see what happens through the evening. That might take a little while to play out, but anyways, guys, I'm actually getting kind of hungry, and I have a few things that I should do this evening. I think that's about all I wanted to go over. I mean, obviously, what I was talking about with the macro time frame and why the reasons why I think that, you know, we are in a bigger downtrend, but bounce would absolutely be possible. If you missed the beginning of this stream, I highly suggest going back just to get a different opinion, because I haven't seen many people talking about what I've been talking about as far as structure goes. But yeah, hopefully you guys found this stream useful, and I plan to do more of them in the future, mostly looking at these shorter time frames, looking at the live analysis, trying to find live setups and stuff like that. So if you do appreciate this kind of content, again, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And if you are interested in my absolute favorite indicators on TradingView, there's an additional 10% discount on checkout using the link down below as well. Like I said, I have been using these indicators every single day for the last 2 years, slightly longer than 2 years, actually. And they just are visually appealing as well. But yeah, anyways, guys, I think that's about all I wanted to go over. Thank you so much for all of you guys for tuning in. I wouldn't be here without you guys. So yeah, be sure to be on the lookout. We'll do it again very soon. With that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Peace.